So I've been taking a lot of ribbing for this background. I have no idea how I got it, but I can tell you that the best lighting in this suite is in the bathroom. So this is better. But I'll tell you what I'm drinking tonight for this. I have the first apple cider of the season with some Valley of the Mother of God gin, which is also from Ontario. So I've got the fruit of the land and the elixir of it as well.
Well, that sounds very nice. And I know that gin, and it's a beautiful, beautiful gin. It has lavender and things like that in it. And I'm drinking vodka and tonic.
There you go.
I wanted it to be simple because it's camp.
Well, it's not camp, but we're talking about camp.
We're going to be talking about summer camp.
Right. Not, yeah. Okay.
So here's to you. This is number 5 of our show.
That's right.
And 5 is supposed to be my lucky number. So let's drink to that.
All right. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Okay.
So what's new with you? What's news?
Well, okay, so apparently, according to the Flight Center, we need a break more than ever. The relentless news cycle and pace of modern life is making people sick. And so a whopping 76% of Canadian travelers crave peace away from crowded destinations. And people are looking for destinations that provide balance, allows them to indulge in beauty sleep, and are thought of as healing localities, which makes sense because we're all going nuts. And prioritizing peace of mind over politics for slow travel trips at home and abroad as summer nears. I can relate to that.
What are they recommending?
Calmcations. So not going to places that are crowded, not going to the immediate top 10 places, but looking for destinations, rather looking for experiences, prioritizing experiences over destinations.
How about Greenland?
I've heard a lot about that. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to this Monday when the Restaurants Canada show is opening. This is a 3-day extravaganza that I look forward to every year.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate show for anyone associated with the hospitality industry. All the restaurants have booths. They're showing their new menus. They're showing their new wares. Mm-hmm. There are lectures by world-renowned chefs, people who understand how to make a restaurant run, like from the back office area.
And it's Jose Andres is going to be there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And well, he's someone special in the world. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to it every year. I see restaurant people who I haven't seen for a long time, new restaurants, all the world's ethnic restaurants that have opened in Toronto. There's wars erupt, menus fly, they fly over with immigrants to Toronto, and before you know it, a restaurant opens. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be represented there, and it's absolutely a picnic for someone like me who enjoys it all.
I look forward to the swag bag, and also, you know what a coffee snob I am. I won't even drink my own coffee, but I'm sorry, but the best espressos ever are at the Restaurants Canada show. So that's what I look forward to most. These like $10,000 machines that make the perfect textured richness of espresso. That's what I like.
Yes, there's that fellow from Montreal.
Yes, and they donate to orangutans, which I also like. Yeah, but what I'm really looking forward to in this episode, apropos of seeking destinations and experiences that provide peace of mind away from politics is that we're going to be speaking to Max Muszynski and Sara Kates, both of whom are very dear to me because they run Camp Arowhon in Algonquin Park, and that's a place that is special in my heart. And today, instead of doing the Sarah Says video, what we're going to show is a little vignette of our summer 2023 cover, which was all about Ontario destinations and hidden gems within Ontario. But our covers are videos, and this video is of me canoeing, and it was not on TP Lake, but it was pretty close. And so I thought that would be a good segue into this next segment. So please watch and enjoy our cover from summer 2023. All right. You know, I don't think you've ever been canoeing with me, Mom.
No, I haven't.
Do you remember when? Go ahead.
I've never learned how to swim.
Well,
My
that might-
mother wouldn't let me go into the water because she said that I'm too small and I would drown. That's it.
Well, I went canoeing. Do you remember the first time I went canoeing with Dad at Camp Arowhon, and we dumped, and it was my fault. He told me not to get out of the canoe, and I said, I know what I'm doing. I have my third class award, but I got out in such a way, the whole canoe flipped over. That was an experience I'll never forget.
Yes, the aftermath of that
Yes, but enough of that.
experience.
I'm very excited to introduce Max and Sara, Max Muszynski and Sara Kates from Camp Arowhon. Are they here?
I'm waiting.
Okay.
Adam, Sarah, hello.
Hey, hi.
Thank you very much
Hi.
for having us.
So when I first met you both, you were just young babies, and now I literally look up to you.
It was a pleasure watching the transition in our relationship.
Yeah. Well,
I remember looking up to you as an exceptional canoeist.
well, you still can.
Yes, I still do. I like to think that everything you learned was from Camp Arowhon.
It absolutely is. And what's interesting about that, when I first went to Arowhon, I was tiny, unusually tiny. So I could not do anything. I didn't even know how to swim. But the canoe instructor at the time was a very charismatic man by the name of Seth Godin, who is now, world-renowned marketing and internet guru. He is a brilliant man. And he was so generous and kind and dynamic that I wanted to go canoeing to be with him. And I learned to canoe, and as I was paddling around, I remember there was a guy who was a bit of a bully, and he was making fun of me. Seth stood up in his canoe, and he pointed his outstretched arm and said about me, "He's a lot better than you are."
Wow.
And I thought, this is the first time when I was a little kid, I was 7 or 8 years old. That's the first time that I experienced someone standing up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was one of the great aspects of camp, is that you can explore your interests and have people there to encourage you and nourish those interests. He was wonderful. And then the next canoe instructor I had, his name was Brian Deschelle, who was the most beautiful piano player I've ever seen in my life. Just watching his fingers dance across the keys was reason enough for me to go to camp. But he also brought a certain charisma to the canoe dock that was just infectious. Like, you just had to keep going to have more of that. And so when I became canoe instructor, and other friends of mine who went to summer camp became canoe instructors. We wanted to, parlay that same feeling. And I've never experienced that anywhere else in the world. It's very special and unique to Arowhon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that tradition probably continues to this day.
Yes, I mean, Seth is still teaching canoeing at Camp Arowhon every year. Yeah, he comes for his yearly visit and trains our staff, and then teaches on the canoe dock, and that's his passion still. He still contributes a huge amount to our program.
That's amazing. Well, I feel that paddling a canoe, is as Canadian as ice hockey.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that,
you know what they say.
I do.
I think Pierre Burton, the renowned Canadian author, said it.
And what was that, Mom?
Well, you're not really Canadian until you have sex in a canoe.
That's not something we teach at summer camps, huh?
Certainly hope not.
Yes. But the immersion into nature and that appreciation of the delicate beauty of Arowhon, and the social responsibility and the sustainability, those are values that are instilled at camp. And canoeing, which is such a part of Indigenous culture and Canadian heritage, is, I think, the best vehicle to convey that, impart that.
Yeah, it is. Canoeing is a flagship part of our program, and always will be. We're still paddling our Sear strip boats that were built by Canadian legends.
Yeah, Omar Stringer.
Yeah,
among others. But
yeah.
you have so many other activities there now, and what I think is very interesting. We talk about food, we talk about travel, and if you think of it in this way, the first trip that a child takes on his own or her own, without their parents, is to summer camp. It's essentially the first time that a child experiences travel, including how to socialize, how to structure a day, how to navigate being away from home, and to define oneself in those foreign elements for the first time away from parents. And that particular type of travel is aspirational for some, but I feel that it's quintessentially Canadian to go off to summer camp, and particularly in Algonquin. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that Arowhon is the only family-run co-ed camp in Algonquin Park.
Yeah, we were very lucky to be able to operate in Algonquin Park, right? One of the few businesses that is allowed to run our business, day to day within the heart of Algonquin, and we are, it's an incredible privilege.
Yeah, and so what really is truly amazing is Lillian Kates. That would be
our great grandmother.
So this woman had the chutzpah in the 1930s to say, I'm going to start a business way up in Algonquin Park, where I'm sure most people didn't know. Mm-hmm. There wasn't even a direct route to get there. You had to take a train and then walk with your luggage. So to do that at that time is astonishing. Like, that's somebody I would want to interview and ask, where did you come up with this? Because it's not something that people did. And then she passed it on to her son, Eugene, who owned the camp when I was a camper there. And he carried on her traditions. And then your mother, Joanne Kates, took over the camp, and she infused new traditions. She was able to respect the old traditions, but also respect the new demands and new social changes and what would be more inclusive and safe. And she did so in a way that was so far ahead of anyone's thinking that it was, she made Arowhon, I think, the most important camp in Canada. And you've been inculcated in that environment, and now you're the next generation running the camp. And you each bring your own family traditions, your values of the camp into a new age for a new generation.
Mm-hmm. It's very special. Mara and I, as a brother-sister duo, each have our really serious passions when it comes to camping, and having this family tradition, is amazing and incredible that we we both share a drive and a direction that is similar and different. Right? We all have our things that make camp special to us, and that we really focus our energy on. So my area of the camp is the teaching of skills, and where Camp Arowhon shines is our skill instruction. We are here to grow children, and that is by teaching them the skills of paddling a canoe, like you learned at camp, but also many other things. We have a very robust water sports program in all aspects: sailing, windsurfing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, and also a land-based program like all our sports and arts program as well, that we really teach kids skills and we help develop their skills. And campers leave Arowhon at the end of the summer being experts at something they choose to develop their skills in, which is really special. And Mara has her own.
So how does it work, Mara, right from the beginning? What happens? Let's say that I'm a parent and my kids want to go to camp like the other kids at school.
So it depends on the time of year. If it's the fall, it's very easy. You can sign them up. It's all online now through our website. If you want to learn more about it, Max or I will come to your house if you're in Toronto or not too far out, and we'll meet you and your kids and tell them about it. If you're more far off, we might meet over Zoom. And then throughout the year, we stay in touch and we help kids and parents, because it's often just as tough, if not tougher, for parents to say goodbye to their kids than it is for the kids to leave to go to camp. And
was it easy or hard for you to say goodbye to me, Mom?
Oh, please. Here's my little 7-8-year-old child going out into a forest with strangers. Where's he going to sleep? How is he going to get along with the other kids? What if he doesn't like the food? What if he's scared? What if there are animals and bugs? And I thought of every possible thing. And those first 2 weeks until we came for Visitors' Day, I don't think I slept more than always thinking, how is Adam sleeping? Maybe he's scared. I'm a mom.
Well, now it's not so much of a mystery because of technology now. You don't have to wait for 3 weeks for a letter to arrive through Canada Post. We have what's called bunk notes, which is an expedited service where a camper can write their letter home. We scan it in and it pops into the parent's email box. And to meet the demands of current parenting trends and desires, we do frequent communication with the parents. We do not let the kids talk directly to their parents on the phone, but we call frequently. And if a parent calls or emails us, we'll get back to them that same day to give them an update on how their kid was doing. But I wanted to comment on something, Adam, you said at the very beginning, which is the kid when Seth stood up to you when the kid was being a bully. Because oftentimes I think parents, especially these days, what they hope for in an ideal camp is one that keeps their kid entirely safe, free from bullies. That is not possible because the world has people of all different shapes and sizes and sorts in it. And even if it was possible to screen kids who are coming in to make sure that there were no bullies there, that would be doing a huge disservice to the kids. What camp teaches kids is both that people will stand up for them when people treat them not right, and also how to stand up for themselves and how to make choices to find the right people for them. And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons we can give to kids, especially in this world where they're so protected from so much stuff. And people think about when a kid goes to camp, it can feel to a kid like they're going all on their own. And it can feel to a parent like they're sending them into the middle of nowhere with nobody. But really, and when a kid goes up the climbing wall, they feel like they're taking the biggest risk, climbing Mount Everest with no harness on. Really, there's a harness and expertly trained staff everywhere around them. Magic balance of perceived risk, but actually in a very safe environment that creates this extremely safe way for kids to develop grit, resilience, confidence, skills, emotional and social skills.
I think that's 100%. I agree with that. And also something that you said, Max, about teaching those skills. I lived in Japan for a few years. And when I was there, I taught canoeing because there happened to be a canoe by the river, and no one had ever seen in real life someone canoe where I was living. No one had ever seen someone canoe the way I did, which was purely Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, everywhere I go in the world, when I'm traveling with my son especially, he's always amazed that no matter where we go, I always have a friend from camp there.
Mm-hmm.
There's always someone from Arowhon, whether I'm in Japan or in Israel or in Mexico. There's an international body of campers that come to Arowhon. And I don't know if it's like that at every camp. Maybe it is, but there's something quite magical that attracts people year after year. And I don't know if it's that Arowhon is the only camp on the lake. It's not like other camps where they share a lake with other camps or other cottages. Arowhon has its own remote, secluded space. And that creates a mystique or a magic that everyone who knows understands. And if you don't, you won't, unless you get to experience it.
Yeah, the connections you make at camp are second to none. You know, my closest people in my life are the friends from camp.
And yours, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they always will be. The people who you rely on, you know, when times are tough, and to network with and to be connected with, are the friends you made at camp. And it's different than people you meet at school. It's different than, you know, in most scenarios you have your people you grew up with in your neighborhood, people you grew up with at school, and the people you grew up with at camp. And the people you grew up with at camp are where the closest bonds come from in most cases. And I think it comes from a shared experience of overcoming challenges.
Yeah.
And doing tough things together and getting through it and learning skills and having a great time together as well. And all those things that just combine to make an incredibly tight bond with people, as I said, from all over the world. You know, you don't have this homogenous one group.
Yeah.
You have people from everywhere and who have similar values but also have, you know, a breadth of knowledge and experiences from all over the place.
I have a lot of friends in Detroit who I love. And every time I go to Detroit, it's like, I want to see everybody. And it's just like picking up like we were, you know, kids in a cabin in 1984.
And a canoe trip is the single best way, I think, to do that. It's the fastest way because you are in a small group of people in a secluded wilderness area doing something that is physically challenging and working together towards the common goal of getting to the other side of the lake, getting to the other side of the portage, setting up camp, cooking your dinner, and is something that is also quintessentially Canadian and pretty unique to our location in Algonquin Park because we don't have to drive anywhere to get to a spot to start a canoe trip. So that's a key part of our program, is that all of our campers go on a canoe trip, depending on their age and how long they're staying, between 1 and sometimes up to 21 nights.
And for a young person to experience this, to be participant in a portage or, you know, paddling across the lake or whatever it is, incrementally, each one of those activities builds confidence. And so these kids get to experience exploring their interests in and amongst other kids who are doing the same. And you create these bonds, these connections that just build you up. And I'm sure a lot of camps can say the same, but I feel that this is one that has become a sort of institution, that when you say Arowhon, it's on a different level than a different class, and people know that. I think a lot of it, at least now, is something that your mom brought to the table. A lot of people know Joanne Kates for restaurant reviewing and cookbooks, but she was also the director and owner of this camp. And what she brought, and you know, namely the two of you, is something that I think is quite unique, that distinguishes Arowhon from any other camp in Ontario, and it's what makes it, it's what gives it its longevity. You know, that this camp has been around since when, 1930? 34. That's amazing. And it's not because you rest on your laurels, and it's not because you're doing the same thing generation after generation. You evolve. And so I'm wondering what you would say, what is it, if you could look at your generations past, from Lillian to Eugene to Joanne, what did they bring to you or bring to the table that you still continue, that you think is at the core of what makes Arowhon such a special, magical place?
Yeah,
Well, Lillian was
go ahead, Mark.
tenacious. Lillian was an entrepreneur. Her main goal at that point was to supplement her family's income because it was during the Depression, and her husband was a dentist. In fact, the first Jewish dentist in Toronto, Max Kates, the original.
Yeah.
And most of the camps at that point were single gender, and her brother had been sent to camp, and she wanted to create a co-ed camp, not for some revolutionary psychological reason, but because she wanted the money of parents who had both girls and boys. But her main philosophy about camping was just getting kids out of the city and into nature. And then when Eugene came on, Eugene was he fought in the World War, and he came back, and he was really entrenched in this idea, this militaristic idea of character building through structure and through skills. And that's, I think, where our commitment to teaching skills came in. And we're very lucky to have the site that we do, the size of site and the resources, because you can't teach 350 kids how to canoe if you only have 2 canoes. We have 60 canoes. We have, how many sailboats do we have, Max? 20 sailboats. We have, depending on the year, between 12 and 22 horses. So when kids go to the activities, they're actually learning how to do them. You don't have 5 kids being taken on a sailboat ride by a staff. You have a staff member who's sitting in the boat doing the teaching, and then a kid holding the tiller and another kid holding the sails. And then when my mom came in, it was my brother and I were young kids at the time, below camp age. And my mom had a new perspective as a young mother and wanted to create a socially and emotionally safe space for kids. And so she was really at the beginning of the anti-bullying movement. She was a pioneer in that. And self-trained, she talked to experts, mostly in the States at that point, and became an expert on creating a culture of social and emotional safety. And it was a hard shift, because by that point, camp was 3 generations into people coming, and the kids of the people who started came back and back. And it's tough to change traditions.
Yeah. Back then, it seemed that the stereotype of camp was meatballs.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, so that would not happen today. Every single person would be fired.
Yeah. And that's very much where my mom took camp from in the late 80s, early 90s to where it is now, which is a place where people will get stood up for, not just by staff, not just by one staff member who really cares, but by their peers, because my mom created a culture where being kind is cool. I think it also came along with an intentional shift away from focus on appearance and what we typically think of as things that make people popular. Mm-hmm. And at first she was quite doctrinaire about that. She started with a strict dress code and no primping, no makeup, no hair straightening, no skirts, no crop tops, tube tops, whatever. We can't police women's appearance that way now. So we don't have a dress code other than wear what's safe and comfortable for the activity that you're doing. But people dress in baggy t-shirts and shorts because they don't want to get a sunburn and they want to be comfortable, and they genuinely don't care. What's cool now at Arowhon is how good you are at canoeing, or how fast you could paddle to the far end of the park and back on our push trip, or who you are, how funny you are, how kind you are.
Well, just to pick up on a couple of things you said, I think that so much of how I am as a parent, I got from Arowhon. You talked about Eugene really instilling skills, especially when my son was little, and especially during the pandemic. I structured every day like we were at camp, like from 9 to 10, we're doing this, from 10 to 11. And that's how I structured my day, not like a school day, but like a day at camp. And he learned so much at that time because we were doing things that were outside the textbook, and different frames of reference, and actualizing things as opposed to just reading about them. And then from your mother, I think what I got is how to talk to a child, how to be sincere and honest and empathetic and speak to them in a way that is constructive and effective for the outcome that you want, but also for encouraging them to advocate for themselves. And I think that's very special. And then that brings us to you. What would you say? I mean, you represent a different generation. So what would you say you bring to the mix that the previous generations in your family didn't? Because this is an evolution of sorts.
Mm-hmm. For me, canoe tripping is a big part of my passion to camp, and we have developed and grown our canoe tripping program. So many camps are canoe tripping camps, or they are traditional camps. Arowhon, I guess we blend that mix. We blur those lines when it comes to being a part of both categories. Every camper, as Mara said, goes on a canoe trip, but we do multi-week canoe trips, both flat water and whitewater. And developing a program where campers can experience that and can really push themselves and be led by world-class guides on world-class rivers and world-class canoe tripping routes is very special and very important to me. And as Mara said, there's no better teaching ground for grit and resilience than on a canoe trip with your peers. And it's a very special thing to continue that program and to grow that program and into something, as I said, a world-class canoe tripping program. And part of that is our location. As Mara said, it's incredible where we are, and the privilege to operate there is very special. And then the other thing is our physical property itself. We have an amazing site. We are on a beautiful private lake in the heart of Algonquin Park with nobody else there, and having this space to run our programs is amazing. And we are very lucky to be able to have this beautiful wilderness site where many other camps that we are seeing are on a busy lake with other cottagers around and motorboats zipping around. We are basically out on our own in the park, but still very developed. Every cabin has running water, electricity, toilets, showers. We're not roughing it in that sense. And
that's the thing. Like, as much as it is a rustic experience relative to living at home in the city, it is quite. It's become quite a resort. I mean, the last time I was there, I couldn't get over how much it's improved. Nothing leaks, everything works well, and the cabins look great. You have different activities, even archery. Like, what are all the activities you have now? Because there's so many that I saw. You mentioned climbing. That didn't exist when I was there, but now it really is like this incredible resort for kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've really developed our choice, because gone are the days when just a paddle and a canoe were sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
We were hoping to teach all different skills. And I said arts-based programming is really important to us now, and sports-based programming as well. It's not just the classic camp activities that you picture in your head of archery and canoeing and kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
Do a lot more than that. There's too many to list.
Well, so you have climbing.
We have rock climbing. We have high ropes, tennis, pickleball, archery, drama, music and guitar, dance, arts and crafts, a swimming program that teaches, future lifeguards. We have, canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, ball hockey, basketball, baseball, and other field sports like that. I'm definitely forgetting some, because it's a long list.
But also the food is really good. And this is interesting, because when I was there, the food was good on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday lunch before the parents would come. But now, you have
it's
sushi.
all a legacy of Joanne.
Yeah, I can't imagine any other camp with that good a menu.
Well, one of the ways we do it is that we have our own chef and hire all of our own kitchen staff and buy all of our own food, versus a lot of camps that have a catering company, and catering companies are disincentivized because they make a per person per meal fee, so they're incentivized to cut costs, and we don't do that. But the other way we do it is, I remember growing up, my mom sitting at the head table, which is at the center of the dining hall where all of the managers, all the adults sit, and she would go over to different random tables in the dining hall and open up their grilled cheeses to make sure they were not just putting the real cheddar on our sandwiches, to make sure they were doing it around the whole dining hall. And still, my mom is 3 years retired. She still spends her summers up at camp because she adores it up there in a beautiful little cabin way off on the edge of camp. And every now and then she'll come into the dining hall and she'll come up to me with a Melmac bowl in her hand and say, "The soup doesn't have enough salt in it. Do something about it."
So and what about what's the age range now?
7 to 15.
And 7 to 15, you can go for 2 weeks or a month or 6 weeks or 2 months.
Exactly.
How many campers are there at one section of time?
350 at one time.
That's great.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you what happened when we came to visit the first time. You know, we could hardly wait to get there to see. And Adam was so happy. And he had friends, and they were passed by and said, "Hey, hi, Adam, see you later," or something like that. First of all, that really warmed my heart. And I felt secure. And I met his counselors, and they were very nice and said that he was a good boy. I mean, he was 7 years old. When you think of that, Adam, think of your son at 7.
Well, he's better than I was.
He's better than you, yes. Because you were the youngest, and so you were the baby. But I felt very secure and about the safety. And you can be sure I went into the kitchen area to see, what they served and that the food was nutritious and good. And I was very, very happy. So the fact that Adam continued camp from the age of 7 to 20 or 21 says something.
Yeah.
He'd go back now.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
also,
Sarah, how did you choose Camp Arowhon, Sarah?
Oh, because Al, my late husband, Adam's father, was a counselor at camp. And I went into a cabin, and on the ceiling was painted in green paint, "Al Waxman sleeps here."
that was 1958.
I think I've seen that at camp.
Yeah. Do you remember Cabin 11?
Yep.
So that was his cabin. And what he told me he used to do at rest hour, whenever it was that the campers were supposed to make their beds, if they didn't make them perfectly, he would pick up the bed and throw it out of the cabin.
Well, that's a high up cabin on a hill.
Yeah. But they learned to make their beds.
Yeah.
So I do think that the quality of everything we're able to provide in terms of safety of campers, in terms of supervision of staff, even in terms of the food, is at least partially due to the fact that we're family run and run by parents. Like Lillian was a parent who was running camp, and then Eugene, because no matter how well-meaning an 18-year-old counselor is and how well-trained they are, they're not going to notice stuff like has a kid changed their shirt in the last week, or are they looking a little flushed and maybe they have a fever. They're going to notice when a kid is crying and if a kid is getting bullied, but it really takes parents themselves. And I think that, so Max and my taking over of the camp as directors has coincided with us becoming parents ourselves. And I think that's added, for me anyways, that's added an immense amount of respect for the work that I do, because I know how important it is to care for other people's kids.
Well, when my son went there for the first time a few years ago, I was neurotic. I couldn't, I kept worrying, what's he going to do? He's going to jump before he thinks. And it was so easy because you mentioned the bunk notes messages, but also I got a call from the counselor, and there was someone on hand to, that I could speak to. I was asking, is he drinking enough water? Is he putting on sunblock? Everything was taken care of. And so for me, it was almost comical, but it took me a little while. Like, he was fine, but I'm the one who needed to be massaged. And it
I
was
wasn't worried about him for a second.
Oh, well.
Oh, no, but you didn't sleep for the first 2 weeks he was there?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. He's going to Arowhon. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah, one of the things we're very lucky. We maintain a 2-to-1 ratio of staff to campers. So our supervision, I guess, and ability to keep a close eye on kids is very intense. I guess with the 2-to-1 ratio, there's very little, I guess, time spent when there's not a watchful eye around or someone to check up on somebody.
But it's also very intentional. You should see my calendar in the summer. On any given day, there's make sure that Asher's counselors turn his palate expander 47 degrees and check these 7 kids for bug bites because their parents say that they have bug bites that can get infected, and ask Max if he's drinking enough water, and ask Sarah's counselors when the last time she took a poo was. Like, we keep track of all this stuff very carefully.
But I think that there is it's a really good balance, because there is that security and that safety that parents can rest assured exists, and that enable the kids to feel at ease. But then there's also the aspect in which the kids feel independent.
Oh yeah, and we didn't
have their
talk
space.
about this most important part of our program selection, which I think was a Eugene invention, which was how kids choose their programs at Arowhon.
Yes,
which is so completely inefficient, but it works so well. So basically, we have. Do you want to explain the auction style, Max?
Yes. So it's unique to us, and there's no other camp that I know that in the world, I guess, that does this. But every day, campers get to choose which activities they're going to. It's a free choice program instead of being assigned an activity by your parents each week, or by the camp directors as to what you go to, or by your cabin group schedule. Every camper picks every morning which activity they're going to. Now, we can curate this a little bit, and we can make sure that certain people go with others, or make sure that a certain camper is pushed in a direction to go to a certain activity. But free choice is the key piece of our program, the key piece of our activity scheduling system, and it allows campers that are younger to diversify and try every activity in camp instead of having to go to the same thing every day for a week. And it allows campers that are older to focus in and to hone their skills in one specific activity that they really want to focus in. And this allows our campers to develop their skills to a very high level as they get older at camp, and as they progress in their camp careers, to hone into one or two specific activities and to really get very skilled at those specific things, like you, Adam, did at canoeing.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the most attractive aspect for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very goal oriented, so I wanted to get my first in canoeing. And there's this grading system: 3rd class, 2nd class, 1st class. And then the next year, I just wanted to have fun and try everything. And yet, and as much as I did that and had a great summer, something is happening in this room. As much as I did that, I felt like I didn't go after a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about balance. So the next year I went for my seconds in sailing, and then I got my first in sailing. But it enables you to choose your own path, like a choose your own adventure book. You can have fun at all the activities. You can focus on one. You can get better and better, and like you said, expert at one particular skill. And to this day, there is nobody on this planet that paddles better than someone who got their first in canoeing at Arowhon.
No, you're not wrong about that.
And
sorry?
From a social perspective, the kids choosing their own activities means that they can really meet like-minded people of all ages and genders at the activities they start specializing in.
Yeah.
And that's really useful, particularly for kids who don't fit whatever the social norm is for kids of that age and that gender. So like for adolescent boys, for example, if you're not sporty, it doesn't matter, because you can meet kids who are like you at drama, or like I was a horseback riding kid. I had my barn crew. And it creates lots of different ways to be cool, and also creates a bit of separation from the kids in the cabin. So you're not with the same people 24/7. So when you get back at the end of the day, your cabin group is particularly special to you, like getting back to your family at the end of the day.
Yeah. And because it's such a diverse camp, there really is an exposure and just an invariable education to each of the kids to be more accepting of that diversity. And so in terms of, you know, what's important in this time of promoting inclusivity and engagement, there's no better place than that.
I think that speaking to other grandmothers whose grandkids are now at camp, friends of mine, they recall that it was very important to learn social skills and how boys and girls can just learn to be with boys and girls, and get confidence when they learn a particular skill. So when we picked up Adam at the bus, there was so much hugging and kissing and crying when everybody said goodbye to each other. It was amazing, amazing. There was just so much affection and like respect and wanting to introduce your friends to your parents. And it was just so heartening to see.
Yes, and particularly with the gender interactions. If the only time boys and girls interact is at a school dance or a camp dance, then of course there's going to be all this pressure and sexual tension. But if they're doing activities all day, every day, in casual clothes together, working towards mutual goals, helping each other out, then it's going to be, not only are they going to have more compassion, tolerance, and understanding for each other, which is going to reduce stuff like gender-based violence in the long term, but also they're going to make smarter decisions when it comes to interacting with each other because they have relationships that are based on friendship and mutual respect.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jay? If Jay is there, we have to pause for a second because my computer is about to die.
Yeah, it's okay, Adam.
Okay.
Do what you gotta do.
All right, I just have to grab a cord. Can I take your cord, Mom?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll bring it to you. I'll bring it. Or you
I'll run
come
over
and
to you. I'll
get
be
it.
faster.
Yeah.
I chose bourbon. I know that's kind of wrong.
Oh. Well, you
Yeah,
didn't
way
get it
wrong.
with the LCBO.
No, I
I
stockpiled. It was like toilet paper in COVID.
Take the white thing.
Jay, you're in the States, right?
No, I'm in Edmonton.
Oh, you're in Edmonton. Okay, I thought you were American. Okay.
The Canada's restaurant guy. Is it spring there yet, Jay?
Today was.
Nice.
Nice.
It can't decide here.
Tell me, how's your mother doing and what is she doing?
She's sitting in the room next to me watching bad TV.
My mom and I just got back from speaking of travel, truly epic hiking trip in Patagonia.
Oh my goodness.
It was fabulous. And Adam recommended some food and some wine, which I partook a little bit in, but we were so busy hiking.
Yes, he was in Patagonia.
What's that?
Yes, Adam was in
Yeah,
Patagonia.
I was going to go to Houston too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, I don't come from a camp culture. I'm from Winnipeg. We didn't go to camp, except that there were some probably like religious or ideological camps. But so I missed out on all this stuff.
What did you do in the summers?
We went to the beach.
Not too bad.
Went to Winnipeg Beach, which was a whole camp by itself. You know, everyone knew each other. It was a small town. That was our summers.
What would you say are some of the aspects that you're most proud of or that you think are most unique about Arowhon, like Arowhon today?
Yeah, for me, Arowhon today is about teaching, I guess, everything. It's like, you know, we talked a lot about activity skills and what we're teach kids in terms of their ability to, paddle a canoe, shoot a bow, climb up a climbing wall. And those skills are incredible, of course. But really what we teach is how to overcome challenges and how to deal with something that comes your way that is hard. Because people are going to experience hardship, right? We can't snowplow the way for every difficult thing in life. And what we do is we support kids through tough stuff. So we say, there's a challenge that we are going to put in front of you, and we're going to scaffold you. We're going to support you to overcome this challenge. And we know you can do it. And we're going to be there when you fall and when you falter and when you fail, because you're going to fail. You're going to try 100 times to do this one skill, and it's going to be difficult. And it may be the skill of making a new friend, or maybe the skill of getting up the climbing wall. And it's okay to fail. And
you have to learn how to deal with losing.
Yes, you got to learn to deal with losing. You got to learn to deal with things not going your way. And we are going to create scenarios where that happens, but you're supported. But there's going to be a shoulder to cry on at the end of it, and they're going to say, "Yep, I'm sorry you failed, and that's really hard, but it's going to be okay." And you're going to get back on that horse, and you're going to try again. Mm-hmm. And that is what we do. We don't snowplow the way for campers. We don't make it perfect, and we support when things are tough.
From a social perspective, what that looks like is if a kid is feeling victimized or feeling isolated, we don't go tell the person who they're feeling victimized by to be nicer to them because it's the rule or because it's the right thing to do. We work with kids. So we talk to them about how do you want me to support you with this? Can I help you come up with the tools to figure out how to either choose somebody different to be friends with, or how to stand up to yourself with this person? If there's multiple kids involved in a conflict, we don't say, let's take turns with this ball. We say, this is a tough situation. There's one ball and two of you, and you both want to play with it. What ideas do you guys have about how we could move forward from this? And even if the kids come up with the exact same idea as we would come up with, when it's their idea, not only are they so much more invested in it, but they are also going to have the skill when they're in a conflict and the staff aren't around, which they can't always be, and when parents aren't around, they're going to have the skills to come up with solutions to their own problems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Yeah. And you don't get that. I mean, you don't get that in school. School teaches you what to learn, but not how.
Yeah, well, and I think it's pretty unique to overnight camp because we have the time. In school, teachers are so concerned with just managing the classroom and getting through the curriculum. Yeah. But we have not just 1 week with the kids. We have sometimes 8 weeks with the kids. So we can really go deep.
Well, I've lived abroad, and when I lived in Japan, and people would ask me, what is Canadian? How is it different than American? Or for me, this that we're talking about is how I define myself as Canadian. Paddling on a glass lake at night under the stars on
with torches Lake. On your canoe.
What's that?
With torches on your canoe.
With torches on my canoe. Yeah. And there's the loon call and all the swirling eddies as I'm paddling, and there's all these intricate little details and nuances that when you experience them, they become part of your identity. And that's very special to Arowhon. And the whole culture that your family has created, I think it's become an important institution. So I love talking about it. And I love the fact that, my mom mentioned my first summer. That was 1980. I'm still friends with half the people in that cabin.
Even if you go to another city.
Yeah. I'm going to a concert in a few weeks, and I'm going to be meeting up with someone who is my camper. So, it's wherever I go, there's a little piece of Arowhon waiting for me.
Mara, did you study something at university that?
Yeah. So my parents were very intentional about the intergenerational transition of the business and set the expectation for Max and I that we either have a professional degree or 2+ years experience in a relevant field working outside of the business. So I got my master's in social work, and that has been instrumental in the lens that I take with supporting staff and campers with social and emotional safety at camp.
So you're not just playing it by ear.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I learned was stuff that my mom was using already, but it comes up a lot these days with anxiety, both in campers and staff, because our awareness of mental health, which is so wonderful in so many ways, also sometimes bumps up against resistance at camp, because camp forces a lot of experiences for people needing to do things that are hard. And sometimes people don't see the distinction between something that is uncomfortable and something that is unsafe. And I use that psychological perspective, which I learned in social work school, to figure out, because most of the things, I'd say all the things we do at camp are safe. It would not serve us as a business to make people do things that were unsafe. So then I can talk to the staff and the campers about what are things that you could do to make yourself feel calmer in this situation. What are the actual risks? What are your biggest fears about what's going to happen? And what are other times when you've done something that's hard? What's worked to help you overcome that fear? And so it's instead of removing the thing that is causing anxiety, it's helping them build the tools to go through that anxiety, because then the next time that particular scary thing or something scary comes, they're not going to need to go around it. They're going to be like, oh, I can just go right through this. I have the skills to do that.
And you know what? I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your dad, Leon. I didn't mention him yet, but he was always, from what I remember at camp, he was always very calm, pragmatic, and if there was an issue, he just had the most commonsensical way of approaching it. And so as a young person watching that, that kind of sage-like behavior hopefully rubbed off on me and a lot of other people who were, staff and then one day parents.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think Leon, because he wasn't born into the Kates family legacy like the other directors have been, doesn't often get as much credit as he deserves. And he did an immense amount with the
for sure,
right management and everything. But his presence as a role model of, how would you say, atypical masculinity. He was not a macho guy at all. Leon is, he's sporty and he's charismatic, but he is soft and he is sweet and he is kind. And I think his presence at camp created a generation of young men growing up to know that there's not just one way to be a cool guy. And I'm so grateful.
Still persists today. But a big part of our program with young men and boys at camp is we call it our positive masculinity program. And it's a teaching that myself and the other male identified staff at the camp do with all the boys and the male identified folks, where about it being okay to be male and it's okay to identify in that sense, and teaching about the concept of positive masculinity, where that masculinity is not about putting others down or being an aggressor or being an alpha in any way, but it's about being supportive of those around you and being caring and a protector and someone who looks out for others. And the more positive qualities of masculinity that we often don't talk about as much. And this is something that we teach the men at camp.
But I think definitely there's that social responsibility that is conveyed. And beyond activities, there's learning how to tie a knot, learning how to do like all these skills,
Fire building.
What's that?
Fire building.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So like if there was a zombie apocalypse, the fact that I went to Arowhon makes me think I could last at least a week. But
that's not exclusive to the boys, though.
What's that?
That's not exclusive to the boys. Everyone at Arowhon can handle a zombie apocalypse, girls and boys.
Yeah. And I think that's what it teaches. It's not about being male or being female, or it's inclusive to every gender, but it's teaching people how to be responsible and respectful, and nurturing the self-confidence to self-advocate, but also to care and to be able to do so in a positive manner that contributes to the community.
Well, they're very lucky. The
Very
kids
lucky.
and the parents to have a safe, wonderful outdoor summer experience.
Oh, I thought you were saying we were lucky to get to do that.
No, the people who can send their kids to Arowhon and know that they are going to have a personal building experience. I'm sure kids come home and there's a change in their personalities.
Oh
Yeah. Absolutely. When my son got off the bus, I saw a different aura around him. And I felt, you know what? I don't know what it is, but at some moment, maybe it was at night when he was walking back to the cabin and he breathed in that air. Or maybe it was a laugh that he shared with someone, or maybe it was during an activity, or being in that beautiful main lodge, all wooden and beautiful. At some moment, something clicked, and he was touched by that magic that makes it such a special place.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Arowhon in your backgrounds?
Yes, these are both pictures of camp on our lake, looking out from our property.
Different time zones.
Yeah, very special.
Well, we're just going over time, I think.
Okay.
But I just wish you continued success, and I think it's the greatest experience that a young person in Ontario can have, that is quintessentially Canadian and self-defining. It's a beautiful place, and I think you're doing a wonderful thing.
Thank
you
you,
very
and
much.
thank you for
Thank you,
supporting
Sarah.
it.
And
And so,
give my best to your mom, please.
will do. So great to reconnect with you, Sarah.
Thank you both very much.
Yes.
Take care.
Well, I hope to see you this summer.
Yeah.
You're always welcome on TP Lake for a paddle.
And what does it say on your website? Yours to the loons come home.
Yours till the loons call and the moose munch.
Yes.
Thank you very much, you two. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Jay?
You guys gonna wrap up?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Do your wrap up now.
Oh, what's our wrap up?
You guys usually chat out at the very end. There.
Oh shit.
It's okay. Just keep going. Here we go. Go.
All right. Well, what did you think of that?
Well, it just makes me feel nostalgic for my youth and not having had the opportunity to go to camp.
Yeah.
See, I might have turned out to be a better person.
I don't think that's possible. I think for me, it does make me nostalgic, because just being there is it's just such a special place that you never know when you go somewhere how it's going to affect you. But I went back year after year after year because it's a part of who I am. And
It
now,
sure is.
yeah,
It sure is. When was the last year that you went? When you were 20 or 21?
I went back. So my last summer was 92, and then I went back in 96. And I said to Joanne, I have to come back. I have to teach canoeing. You don't even have to pay me. She did pay me, but that was my last summer, was 96. So I went from 80 to 92, and then again in 96. And all those summers, where some people think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to go to Europe? I just wanted to go to Arowhon. And now I'm very excited that my son is going there, and that he can experience that magic.
Well, it's 3 generations.
I recommend it to everybody. If you can, it's a special place.
Well, let's drink to summer fun.
To summer fun. Cheers. See you next time.
See you later.